Hi Emma, how are
Hi,
you
Corinne.
doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me
You're
in
very welcome.
celebrating 15 years already. Amazing,
15.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I decided and we decided to kind of celebrate the 15 years and with an interview to
Yes.
know a little bit. Can you describe the start of your story? How did you start dancing?
The start of my story started when I was 4 years old. I started to dance when I was 3 or 4 years old. I started to really enjoy it. It's just started off as a hobby at first. Then I slowly did more and more dancing after my school days. Then, when I was finally 16, I went to a college for 3 years. I danced from morning to night. I continued partially of my education, but it was an actual college for dance. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I then knew that this was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I did one audition back in summer '97.
Oh,
First audition, my only audition, and it was at the Lido de Paris in Paris, in France. I came one day with my mum. We took the Eurostar from London. We did we did a visit at first, and then we went into the Lido. I had my audition in front of the artistic director and the captain of the Bluebell line at the time. The audition lasted for approximately 2 hours. At the end, they thoroughly enjoyed my audition. They proposed me a place for the next year, the next contract, which was starting in the November, but they had to reconfirm it in a couple of months' time because they didn't know who was actually going to leave from the present year that were there on stage. But they thoroughly enjoyed my audition and they said that I had a place in the Lido. But
how old were you at that time? And
I was 19 years old.
19?
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
how did you decide to audition for the leader? Was it through the college or did you see it
No, in fact
rising?
it was my parents' 25th wedding anniversary, and my sister and I bought two Eurostar tickets, two tickets to the Lido for them to celebrate their wedding anniversary.
Oh,
Yes, and it's crazy because 25 years later, we have literally just celebrated my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. So at the time they celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary, my parents watched the Lido show. They knew that I was coming to the end of my 3 years of college, where I was dancing, and my mother thought that it could be a good idea for me. So, in fact, it was my mum that arranged a contact that she
yeah.
gave to me. I called the contact, and it was me that arranged the casting in Paris, and that's how it happened. And then after my casting that I did in Paris, we went home, and 2 months later, they officially called me that I had a place waiting for me if I wanted it in the end of October. I
Do you remember
rehearsed.
the day? Do you remember the call? What was your
I
reaction?
remember the call. My reaction was excitement, many emotions because I was 19. I had I had only ever known living at home with my parents and my sister. So for me it was a huge move. It was like moving to Australia, but in fact it came very easy because I so wanted to be a dancer and I was so very excited to be accepted for the Lido de Paris that the maybe the scared emotions very quickly disappeared because I was so very excited. Um,
And at that
uh,
time, there were no social medias, almost no phones.
no, there was no. You're right. You're really right. There was no phones. The phones that we had were the landline phones. So I'm pretty sure I remember I came to France. I had no mobile phone. So calling my parents every weekend, I would go into a telephone box. I would
Yeah.
call them. Yeah, you're right. Things have changed so much. There was no social media. Everything was either writing a letter or walking into a telephone box. So But
And what
it
was
worked for
that
me.
feeling of like going to Paris? Was it kind of saying it's la capitale de France, even more in the Champs-Élysées, even more the Lido de Paris? So were you aware at 19 years old of where you would put yourself into?
Actually, I think you have a very good point, because the fact that I was only 19 years old, I knew France, I knew Paris. I learned very quickly about the Lido de Paris since I did my casting in there. But I think I wasn't prepared for the life, because French life is very different from English life. But I also adapted very quickly. Lots of things that I had to learn. For an example, their subway in France is very different to the subway in London. But I was very motivated. I was very happy to be here, and I feel I adapted the French life, and I'm still here. So I adapted it well. I learned quick. I think I stayed for so many years. One, that I absolutely enjoyed my time at the Lido. It put me in the right direction with my life. And two, I like the French life. I'm still British, I'm still English, but I like the French life. Yes, yes. I
And you
liked
said,
I liked I liked the I like the freedom of being in another country. I know that sounds very strange, but because obviously it was my first time that I'd left home, although I was scared, when I moved here, I was actually like, oh wow, I can have a social life. I don't I don't have my parents telling me what time to come home. Stuff like that. So it was a process of adaptation. It was a process of enjoying my life at the Lido, enjoying my life in France, realizing that okay, I'm 19, but 19, you grow up very quickly. You grow up very quickly, and you have to grow up very quickly because you are living in a different country from your family. So yeah, yeah.
and were you taken care of by the Lido for the flat? I mean, for the transport?
Actually, at this time, no. Actually, no. When I first arrived in France, they recommended that we stayed in a hotel for the time that we found an actual flat. They basically said, we advise you to stay in this hotel. It's what we always advise the dancers,
Right.
where the dancers to stay. It was at our cost. So I had 1 month of rehearsals, and my month's money of rehearsal paid for my hotel.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yes, for that it was tough, because
Yes,
from coming from 19 years old, I didn't have a lot of money behind me.
of
My
course.
parents were never parents that gave me lots of money. They made me try to survive on my own 2 feet, and I did. But it was hard in the beginning to find an apartment, because I didn't actually have any contacts. I didn't know what to do. Eventually I did. At the fourth week of my rehearsal, I watched the people that I was with, they found apartments, and I was getting a little bit anxious, but I was like, no, it's okay, I will find somewhere. And I did. And it was actually through an ex-dancer of the Lido that had bought an apartment, and she was looking for someone to rent it. So it worked out perfectly well for me. There's always something. You have to just keep believing that there will be something, and something did happen for me.
We
So
would imagine such an institution that they had a department, special relocation department to help the dancers to fit in or
it's a
find.
shame. In fact, they never really, they never, I think it would have been a good idea for the Lido to have taken some apartments from somewhere for always the new dancers that arrive every year, because it would have, for that, it would have been made a little bit easier for me. But that's just me. But we all eventually found our apartments, because there is so many
That was
apartments.
back then as well,
That was back
kind of
then.
long time ago now. So
Yeah.
I would like to talk about auditioning. Auditioning, the audition you said lasted 2 hours. What did you
It
do?
lasted 2 hours. Yeah. Because not only did I remember I did a number from the actual show, so the time it took to learn it, it was about 45 minutes. Then you do it over and over and over again, so you get the style back then of what they wanted to see. And I remember focusing very hard on the captain that was in front of me, because it's a new style. I had come from college from 3 years from doing all dances, ballet, jazz, modern, tap. So to recognize the style of the Lido, it took 45 minutes. Then I rehearsed by myself. Then I performed the number that I was learnt a few times as well. And then to finish the audition, we did 45 minutes of a ballet lesson.
Okay.
And at first I was like, why am I doing a ballet lesson? Said, because we want to see your strength, because anyone can pick up a routine normally with the captain in front of you, but we see good potential in you and we would like to see your strength. And in a dancer's strength, it comes from the basics, and the basics is classic ballet. So I did 45 minutes of classic ballet next to the bar.
And then you just went back to the hotel with your mother?
Yes,
you had dinner?
I think I was in a little bit of shock with my mother at first. I remember sitting on the Champs-Élysées in a bar, in a brasserie. We had a Coca-Cola each, and I was trying to just like relive everything that I just relived in the Lido de Paris, because it was so huge for me at the time. And plus they were very happy with me. And yeah, I remember it was a beautiful day and we just stayed for quite a while on the Champs-Élysées. Then eventually we went back to the hotel, we went out for dinner, and then the next day we went back to England.
What month? Which month? Do you remember?
It was the month of July.
Okay, July in Paris is nice.
It's beautiful in Paris in
Did you
July.
have that feeling? Did you have that feeling in advance that that was made for you? Did you have, okay, it's going to happen? I did my best and things are going to...
Yeah, definitely. I think everything for me happened for a reason why I'm actually still here in Paris. But for me, it all happened. It all really happened for a reason. The fact that my mum and dad watched the show, my mum took the contact. It worked out really well. That then I had an audition very quickly. Everything was good signs, good positive signs. I'm a good believer.
And at the same time, hard work, because you said you started at 4 years old.
Yes.
And 19 years old, you
yes.
did the audition.
I did my audition.
Give you...
I went through lots of stages.
19 years old, just to say to people, to the young generation, things are not easy. They just won't come up like that. You need to work for it.
You do need to work. Good work pays off. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
no,
I do that as well, because you chose the Lido. It's kind of a high performance, for athletes. And so after you get back home, did you share with your friends the excitement, or did you keep it for yourself? And because you had months to wait in order to have the answer.
Yeah.
How did you...
At this time, in the month of July, the college year had finished, in fact. So I had finished in June, I think. So I'd actually moved back home, and I didn't go back to college after. College didn't know that I had this casting at the Lido. No, they didn't know. But when I knew that I had a definite job, that they proposed me a place at the Lido de Paris, I remember calling college. Honestly, I can't remember speaking to my friends, because I know that they were busy trying to find jobs as well. And as you said, social media didn't exist in this time. So maybe the college had spoken to other people. Honestly, I can't remember, but I do remember telling the college, and they were very happy for me.
Excellent. So you received that call that changed kind of your life, and then you become an official Bluebell. Can you describe to people what is a Bluebell, and the process, your routine?
A Bluebell girl for me is being one of the most iconic Bluebell dancer girls in the world. I think once you're a Bluebell girl, you're always a Bluebell girl. When I arrived, I was officially a Bluebell girl for 1 year. After 1 year, I then moved. We had a thing at the Lido, three lines of of dancers. There was the Bluebell actual lines, then there was the nude dancers, and then there was the bell dancers. I was 1 year in the Bluebell line. I then did 3 years in the second line, and then I finished in the bell line. And for me, the bell line was amazing. The bell line, there was only 6 of you. You're still a Bluebell girl, but you're actually called a bell. So it's a little bit higher.
Yes.
This line, and in this particular time in my life when I was in the bell line, I then started doing the principal. And in fact, that is 15 years ago when myself and you did the first interview together, when I was actually in the bell line, and this particular night I was performing on stage as a principal.
Amazing routine you had. I remember when I was there filming. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
It was really a privilege. I had that sensation of like you were kind of an artist and a machine. You had 2 shows on the same night. How did you handle, how did you prepare yourself every day to be ready and at your top maximum every night?
I think when I was 19, obviously you're 19, so you have age on your side. You have the youth on your side. It was still a struggle though, because 2 shows a night, every single night. And I remember at the beginning, I remember thinking to myself, do I sleep all day because I'm working at nighttime? But that's strange. I cannot do that. And then bit by bit, we had rehearsals during the day. So the day and the nighttime actually turned into one long day, but it wasn't a bad thing because you get into the rhythm of rehearsing in the day or doing castings in the day, not just for the Lido, for different hair shows. You get contact by contact. I was doing hair shows in the daytime, and the nighttime it just became like a normal wake-up call. I would arrive at work at 8 o'clock. I would get ready with my makeup. I would warm my body up, and then you would go on stage, and it just became normal. Your body follows your brain and your heart, and it just became completely normal for me. I think the only time it started to change at the Lido for me was possibly when I had my children, because then my devotion was still to my job in the Lido, but my time and my
Mindset.
yes, was kind of split. So it wasn't, it had to be, because I had my first child when I was 31. And then I went back after having him 3 months later. And that at this point, that's when I started to realize that this is still my life, but I have a little life at home, and I needed to be present for him. So maybe I was more tired, but I was still the same on stage. My as soon as those curtains opened, my desire for the Lido was still there, but I was more tired. So that particular time in my life, I had to separate and deal differently with my times and my sleep and everything, really. Yes.
So there is a difference in between, I guess, women and men here in that area. Basically, in many industries, definitely.
Yes.
Balance needs to be found, and options, decision, timing, timeline. Interesting. Yes.
I guess a woman that works in, for an example, that works in an office, she may go back to work soon after, like I did, back to the Lido, but physically I think every woman after having a child would like to see yourself looking normal again. But I think I had to try extra hard because I was going to be back on stage again, and I needed to be 100% every day. So mentally and physically it was more tiring, but you deal with your emotions. You have to, because I knew that this was still my life. My child was my life, and this was my job. So it was hard, it was tough, but I still continued many years after.
And before saying goodbye to the Lido, do you have a special story or some special stories you would like to share, like funny stories? Things
Oh, there's
that
many
you have
special
ever seen?
stories. To be honest with you, every day that I was performing was a special story in itself, because I can still feel the excitement in my body and in my brain. Although you spend 45 minutes putting your makeup on, when you're on stage waiting behind the curtains and they open, and I can generally say every night for 18 years I was full of excitement, and my pleasure was there 100%, 200%. It was there to perform in front of the audience and to look your best. It was just, I can still feel that excitement in me even today, and it's been 5 years that I left.
Well, that's a good point. Talking about the audience, because a show exists thanks to the audience, both dancers,
Absolutely.
athletes, or the performers and the audience. Do you have the memory of like seeing the audience or feeling the
Yes,
energy from the
yes,
crowd? What,
yes.
when you look
It,
back, what is the sensation you will remember?
you just remember standing at some points, dancing most of the time on stage, and you see these people all around you in the salle. I remember the salle can take up to 1,200 people, and you see them all. They're not all looking at you, but they're looking, they're waiting for the performance that you're going to give them. And for that, that's pleasurable. That, for me, that was every night, to see these faces looking up at you. It's amazing.
And
Nothing
yeah,
can replace that. Even now, I have a job. I love my job, but the emotion is not the same as being on the stage at the Lido de Paris.
let's say it. It's magic. You
It's
brought
magic.
you
It's
live
stardust. It's
yes.
starlight. It's magic. For me, it was magic, pure magic for 18 years. Sorry, 18 years.
So to conclude with this interview, from those 15 years, amazing, what would you share and what kind of advice would you share to the young generation, dancer or athletes or performers? What
I
would you?
think the advice that I would give to possibly myself and anyone else that is looking to have their future as a dancer, or even at the Lido de Paris, to live for the moment, work hard, enjoy every little bit, every day, every night, because you're only young and
Time flies.
you're
And now
yeah, no,
they have
it's
social media.
it's emotional for me to think about it, because I believe what I did when I was 19, it was correct, but it's
Yes.
true to give the advice to myself or another 19-year-old. Honestly, I would just say go for it. Go for it. Live your dream. The dream will give back to you if you're on stage at the Lido de Paris. It's an amazing experience. It was an amazing experience for me, and I don't regret one bit of it. Honestly, not one bit of it. There's no other place that I would want to have spent 18 years of my life.
Thank you
So
so
my advice is just go for it. You've got one life, live it to the max.
to the max. Thank you so, so, so much for your
You're
time.
welcome. You're very welcome.
And let's see.
And let's see each other in another 15 years.
Oh my God. Let's do another interview. Yes, let's do another interview in 15 years.
Sure.
Just yes,
With
I have
pleasure.
a few more questions, definitely. So much for your
Okay.
time, Emma. Okay.
You're very welcome. Thank you to you, Corinne. Thank you. You take
Bye-bye.
care.
You too.
Bye-bye.